Hello, beautiful people. My name is Rochelle Innocent, and I'm the founder and CEO of Project Purpose. Welcome to our channel. Our community is focused on fostering the intellectual and character development in children. We do this through our parent-child workshops that are focused on 4 themes: autonomy, self-efficacy, compassion, and self-concept, in order to cultivate grit, perseverance, and resilience in each child. And we are so thrilled to be offering one of the first of its kind digital, virtual, and continuous learning environments, enabling parents and children to connect from all around the world. At Project Purpose, our overarching mandate is to renew and rebuild family, community, and relationships. Our different social media platforms provide us with an opportunity to have discussions and to create space on all topics that relate to family, community, and relationships with ourselves as well as with others, with a primary focus on mental health and education. More precisely, the ways that the institutions of mental health and education play a role and have played a role in our societies at large. These discussions and debates provide us with an opportunity to think critically about what needs to change within these structures for us to live up to our bold slogan: support, protect, and empower each child through youth-focused development, better known as leadership in juvenescence. We recognize that in valuing our children's leadership potential, this also translates as recreating and co-creating environments, both socially and politically, that will enable our children to thrive. For those of you who are particularly keen on the topic, we also write thought pieces every other Sunday, and we actually just dropped a thought piece this past Sunday, so be sure to meander over to our website and check out our online content. Now, if it is the case that you are looking for a listening alternative, well, we're available on 12 different podcast platforms for your listening leisure, and we provided you with access to the links in the description down below. Now, as is the convention, be sure to subscribe, hit that post notification bell so that you are aware of every time we post. And of course, if you like our conversations and you want to keep them going, like, comment, and share this segment. Let's get into it. Allô, les meufs et les mecs. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another segment here on Project Purpose. For those of you who are new, we cover topics that relate to mental health, mental wellness, and education on a week-by-week basis. And today our topic of discussion is mental health. And on the topic of mental health, we're talking about mental health and our physical body, physical touch, and all the ways that our bodies communicate to us and try to support us in the way that we navigate in the world around us. Now, this is part 2 of our series on personal touch and on just physical orientation and our physical being and the way that our physical being communicates to us. I mean, our bodies are not just vehicles that we need to feed, that we need to support with sleep, and that we need to support with lifestyle. They are actually supporting us in this journey, in this walk called life. We just need to learn to pay attention to the signals. And one of the ways that I talk about doing that is just learning to calibrate and to ground yourself with touch and understanding all of the ways that your body responds or react to not just yourself, but to the people around you. So a lot of the times when it is the case that we have like a gut feeling, we have an instinct, we try to write it off as indigestion. But if we knew what indigestion felt like every time we experience it, there are other feelings that we can get that are more intuitive feelings that we wouldn't so readily discount. So it's just so important that we get to know our bodies, that we develop a personal understanding and relationship with our bodies so that we can distinguish a signal that is more intuition and more how our body is trying to help us orient in the world around us from like digestion issues and a cramp. And so I can differentiate between those things because I'm someone who really has taken the time and will continue to take the time throughout my life to reconnect, to calibrate with my body and to understand my body beyond pain without reducing my body to just like physical functions. I think my body is a very intuitive being. My body has its own intention, and we know this when we're like feeling disconnected or when we're in physical pain or when we're going through something that makes it so that our will and our bodies are disconnected and we feel like, okay, like to get to where I'm going, like I first need to take care of my body. And at that point you recognize, your body, that it is an entity that requires your attention, but over and above when you're like experiencing pain and discomfort. And so I have the 5 Ds that my body communicates to me that enables me to interact and navigate social settings. And these are experiences that I feel in my gut, but I can also feel in my entire being. And I know that it's a communicative response. It's the way that my body signals to me things that I can't know mentally, I can't know intellectually, I couldn't know cerebrally. And they're often experiences that I'm very novel to, but my body will immediately give me a signal that I know, that I understand, and that I have learned to trust. And it's so important that we cultivate this trust, that our bodies have this inner knowing when we're in a situation that doesn't serve us, or interacting with people who aren't for us, or situations that require our immediate attention or immediate action. So I frame them into 5 Ds, and there are more than this, but I think these 5 Ds, once you have them top of mind, you can start to see the ways that they relate information to you. The next time you're in a social setting and you're trying to get a sense of like your fit, or if whether or not you belong. So I'm going to jump right into my 5 Ds. So the 5 Ds as ways that my body communicates to me how I should respond or how I should be navigating in that situation. And I'm also going to be telling you what I do when I experience any one of these Ds. So let's just get into it. So the first one is disgust. Disgust is something that is so deeply embedded in the way that I respond in my social interactions. And it's often this undercurrent that shows up when I'm just with someone who doesn't serve me. And it's funny because we think disgust and we immediately associate it with like maybe foods we don't like. We associate it with like maybe people who do things that are just so distasteful to us. But I find that if I'm in the presence of a stranger and I have absolutely no idea who this person is, and for whatever reason my body starts to feel repelled, I start to feel disgusted, I recognize that I don't need to know anymore. This person is creating this physical reaction in me. I'm going to create distance. So I usually find out down the line, like these people, like anyone that like triggers disgust in me where I feel physically repelled by them, it's either that they've harmed me in ways that I don't know about, but my body is like responding to it, or that they're just not for me. They have bad intentions, bad motivations, and my body picks up on those signals before my brain ever could. And frankly, a lot of people, their words are deceptive. They're not there to really show you what their real intentions are. But if you feel disgusted when you're in the presence of someone, even if it's subtle. So for me, disgust isn't always like vehement. It's not always like super acute. It can be super, super, super subtle, right? So if I'm interacting with someone and they're really trying to put their best foot forward and I still find myself feeling repelled by them, I know that, you know what, there's something here that lies beneath the surface that I don't need to know more about. My body is telling me to create distance. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. But I find a lot of the times that we don't either respond to our disgust or we swallow our disgust. We try to reserve judgment and like try to get to know that person. But for me, like disgust is a very strong state of being, is a very strong emotion. And if you know that when you're disgusted by a plate of food around you, it means that there's something in that food that your body just does not want to partake in. That also translates in social interactions, yet somehow we ignore the signal. So the next time you're interacting with someone, it doesn't matter how long you've known them, it doesn't matter if you've just met them, if at any point your body starts to respond with disgust, take it as a signal that that person is not for you. You'll figure it out later on or you won't, but my body has never lied. Anytime I felt any experience of feeling repelled by someone, it always ended up translating in truth in ways that I probably could have prevented if I just like took the signal like more seriously. And to be fair, like anytime I've felt disgusted by someone, I typically do create distance, and it really does change the way that I interact with them. And some experiences are just beyond our realm of control, but just know that if you're feeling disgusted by someone, that's not gonna go away with time, nor should you numb yourself to that emotion. Disgust is really a signal that there is something just misaligned between you and the people that you're interacting with. The second one is distrust. And this is something that's super subtle, but I'm always keying in on it. And the fact that I'm so confident that my body will tell me if this is a person that I should or shouldn't trust, it means I don't need to carry the emotional baggage of betrayal, right? And I have experienced betrayal like most people, but for the most part, the betrayal wasn't a surprise. And sometimes you can see the betrayal coming a mile away and you can't prevent the effects of it. Like it's just going to be a wave that you ride, but I have never felt distrust and it being completely uninformed. If I am talking to someone and I know that I'm not controlling for bias, I know that I have no preconceived, judgments that are or unconscious bias that are playing into my distrust. Like I'm typically someone who's very curious and very open to learn about the people around me. Like I never start off feeling distrustful about people. I always want everyone to have an equal opportunity to get to know me and to get to know them, but I'm going to let the way they interact with me, I'm going to really listen to myself as they interact with me. So I do always start off neutral. So neutral by me is like, I don't start off trusting everybody. I don't also start off distrusting anyone, but I listen to my body's response and reactions to people as I interact. And if at any point in that interaction, my body is signaling distrust, I feel distrust with this person, then I'm done with that conversation. And they might not know it, but like for me, anytime I'm interacting with different people, with new people, I am super tuned in. And a lot of people aren't, right? A lot of people talk and they're sort of distracted and they are unaware, or they're just kind of, shooting from the hip. But I am someone who is very attentive to the people talking to me and around me. And if at any point I'm sitting there and my body's cueing distrust, I understand that to mean that, these people are not for me and I don't need to know where it's coming from. Like, I have learned that my body is very wise. It cares about my personal safety and self-preservation, and I don't need to know why my body is distrustful of someone. If it is, then it is what it is, and I'm organizing my energy accordingly. And it's something that especially as women, so important to listen to that distrust factor. And you could have a friend that you trust completely, and then subtly, and it could be something that you can't put your finger on, distrust starts to bloom. And for me, that really tells me I'm someone who firmly believes that people are for you until they're not. People are your friend until they're not. You cannot predict the moment that the tides change, right? You cannot predict the moment that people flip the coin or turn feelings or behaviors that are against you, right? But you can trust your body's signal that, hey, there's something here that you need to pay attention to, and you need to respond accordingly for the purpose of your own self-preservation. So while I can't always understand why distrust takes place, especially sometimes when distrust happens with people that at one point I trusted completely within the realm of within the context that we knew each other, but once distrust gets signaled, I completely respect it and I organize myself appropriately. So the third D that I want to talk about is distance. And this is the one that I still find myself to be marveled at. And it's the fact that there are certain people, and it's not distrust that they trigger, it's not distrust or disgust that these people are triggering within me, but I find myself wanting to maintain distance from these people. And I find it super interesting because even if I'm not paying attention, they could be around me, and within 2 to 3 minutes, I find myself really orbiting away from them. So if I find myself subconsciously creating distance from specific people more than 3 times, my body just does not want to be around them or around their energy, then I don't think it has anything to do necessarily with them in relation to me, but what they're going through, who they are in that moment, my body wants nothing of it. And it's a form of being repelled. It's not just because I'm disgusted by them. There's not a specific misalignment between them and myself, but there's something about who they are, what they're going through that my body wants nothing of. Their energy just doesn't align with my energy, and there's this incompatibility that I trust my body is responding to. So I find that if I'm subconsciously creating distance, or if because I've been subconsciously creating distance, I start to actively create distance between myself and other people, it is a true signal that there's something awry. And again, I don't need to know the details anymore, right? I used to be well, no, I don't know why my body is signaling me these things, or I don't know why my body is doing these things, but they're very strong inner responses for me. And I don't know if it is the case for you, but for me, it's just something I respond to because I believe in being aligned and being grounded, being centered. And because these things aren't frequently triggered within me, when they are, I just learn to trust the wisdom that is inherent in my body and respond accordingly. And so the fourth D that I want to talk about is discomfort. And discomfort is really important because typically if I'm feeling uncomfortable around someone, then there's a subtle cue of, bad intentions. They don't have the right motivations. And while I don't know what, and we often do not know why we are the target or the object of someone's affection or attention, but if any aspect of your attention or affection or your engagement is making me feel uncomfortable, trust and believe that that relationship is dead in the water, right? I don't play with discomfort. If I'm feeling discomfort, that for me is a signal that there's something about whatever it is that's driving you in this interaction that my body is just really not okay with, I will respond to that accordingly. And last is dread. And I think that this one is super important because all the time when I hear stories of people who've been through really traumatic experiences, they've always had this experience of dread that they either responded in alignment to or they tried to discount. And dread, for me, that pit in your stomach, that feeling that something is really not right, it is danger, right? And dread is not indigestion. Dread is not, having an inflammatory response to the food you ate earlier on today. Dread is your body telling you, you are not safe right now. And anytime my body has felt dread, I couldn't explain why I felt the dread, but I've organized my actions accordingly because of it. And I have done some things that even for me, I'm shocked by the fact that I did them, but I felt like I was in danger. There's something about these interactions I'm having, the people that I'm speaking with, the ways that they're moving, where I am feeling like, hey, my personal safety is in jeopardy here, so I navigate accordingly. And I'm very silent about it. And in fact, with all of these Ds, whether I'm feeling disgusted, I feel distrust, I feel discomfort, I feel dread, or I feel the need to create distance, I don't feel the need to communicate that to the people around me. These are just interactions with myself, conversations with myself that I'm having to support me living my best life without leaving room for undue trauma. And frankly, we're all going to experience trauma in our lives, but if our body is sending us signals that help us to preserve ourselves, then why not just listen to them, right? And dread for me is a super strong, though often subtle response that there is something not okay and you need to respond immediately. So I very rarely feel dread, but I know that when I'm feeling dread, I need to think quickly. I need to do something sometimes a little bit drastic, but it's really all for the purposes of self-preserving myself. And I think that a lot of times when people have interacted with me thinking that I was completely ignorant to what was going on around me, or thinking that their intentions were completely hidden, they don't realize that I am someone who is acutely attuned to my body, acutely attuned to the world around me, and unfortunately for them, acutely attuned to their states, to their energy, to their intentions, to their motivations, as it relates to me. Any sort of signal, no matter how subtle, no matter how masked, I will pick it up and I will navigate accordingly. And for some people, this baffles them because a lot of people think that they're very clever, that they operate in the shadows and in the dark and there's no way you'll ever know. I always know, and I very rarely, if ever, communicate it. And I oftentimes will spend a little bit more time interacting with people who trigger disgust, distrust, distance, discomfort, or dread because I want to get the information that I need to be able to navigate in the appropriate way. So because I know that I'm 10 steps ahead and I know that they don't know that I picked up on the fact that they're not really motivated by good intent, then I can at least take as much information as I feel that I need to be able to align myself accordingly. And the people who are no longer part of my life, they've been signaling these things. The people who will not be part of my life, they have signaled these things. The people who I've had on probation, where I'm I'm feeling something kind of like distrust, but let me see, is this maybe me being biased? And I'm waiting for the distrust to signal in an acute way. And while that's happening, if I am putting someone in this probationary corner or quarantine, everything they do and don't do, I am taking it in. I am soaking it in like a sponge until I get the solid green light, and all the while preserving myself, all the while making sure that I'm not putting myself in harm's way. And so while this is a very acute, very clear signal for me, I think that it can become clear for all of us, right? I think it can become clear with intention, with awareness, with feeling centered, with feeling grounded. If you follow the first video, if you start to interact with yourself, not just when you're experiencing emotional distress, if you start to really tune into your body's responses, to your body's states, to your body's needs, beyond hunger, sleep, and needing of physical activity, you will start to pick up on how your body responds in relation to other people and navigate accordingly. And that information, by the way, is complete information. It doesn't need to be words. It doesn't need to be a full story with a plot twist and the climax. It can just be this one sense, this feeling that tells you everything you need to know about how to move forward and who to bring you with you and who to cut right off. So I think that this is an important conversation. It's also my superpower. It's not something that I really have disclosed to many people because I like to know this information. It helps me keep my cards close to me and tell me who to keep away from me as well. And I think that this is something worth sharing for all of us as we get a sense of this inner alignment, how we align with our own delta, how aligning with our delta enables us to keep keep the people who are not for us away from us, right? And how to protect ourselves when we're making new social interactions to make sure that we're not inviting danger in. So that was the segment for today, but definitely not all. Now, before letting you go, I would be remiss if I didn't let you know that we will be going live at least twice a month, every month for the foreseeable future on our Facebook page. So definitely be sure to tune in. Now, these events are paid events. So if you do see yourself participating in our community on an ongoing basis, then I do suggest that you take a look at one of our package plans. Yes, so we do offer package plans over and above our live events, as well as access to webinars and workshops largely focused on self-mastery over and above those live events. So definitely a lot of information for you, a lot of growth, a lot of alignment, and getting a better sense of who you are and what that means about the people, places, and things that you invite into your life experiences. So that's me inviting you to our Game Changer community. Let us have a role play a small part in your journey, and I look forward to chatting with all of you very soon. Now, we are on the road to 1K, so I do invite you to join in, to subscribe, to follow us, and we'll talk to you later.